And we are live. Good evening, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to this special stream that we're doing for the State on Union, to the state on the debate on the state of the European Union by its full name. Or we're going to call it the State of the Union for short. This annual debate where you have the President of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, who comes to the Parliament and explains what are the priorities of the EU, what are the big legislation that she intends to put forward as the Commission, and that will, let's say, give the tempo for the coming year. And so tonight, we are going to debrief a little bit this debate, what were the announcement. And for this occasion, I invited two MEPs to join me tonight to discuss what were their thoughts on this speech by Ms. von der Leyen, and the things that are positive, the things that are negative, discuss among them if they have different opinions, and of course for you to ask their questions if you have any. So with me I will have Hildegard Bentele, who is an EPP MEP from Germany, and my second guest will be someone who you already know if you've been on the channel, Marketa Gregorova, Czech MEP from the Greens Group, our Greens Group in Parliament. Back home, pirates. I always make the distinction, otherwise the chat yells at me. So without further ado, let's dive a bit into this. So, good evening, Ms. Bentele. Good evening, Ms. Gregorova. Thanks again for taking the time to be with us tonight, and especially on a busy plenary week, and to debrief a bit this State of the Union speech that was taken place this morning, where Ursula von der Leyen gave the priorities, the big announcements for this for the coming year. So. Maybe to start up a little bit, I will ask a very general question to both of you. So, in your opinion, all things considered, was it in your opinion a good State of the Union, or something that was lacking given the stakes of the war and the general context? So, Ms. Bentele, please.
Well, I think it was a good one in general, but not a super one, I would say. Because it was lacking a little bit of focus, and there were also some issues we really missed, and a little bit also, I mean, not a little bit, but the connection to the current reality which European citizens live was not really well made. So I think the empathy point was not so much pronounced. So, and this is, I think, the critiques which also came up.
Okay, and Ms. Gregorova, what was your impression?
Well, I to some extent agree with Hilde. I do think also it was kind of all over the place in terms of praising the EU and the institutions of the EU in doing some things, but then not addressing the prevailing problems. I guess that it was supposed to be a little bit of feel-good State of the Union speech, because we are all living difficult times, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't talk that much about what are the difficulties. So yeah, it's not like I'm hugely disappointed, but it's also not like I would clap my hands off.
And so both of you say that it could have been better. It's not terrible. It could have been better. So, in your opinion, then what was missing? Ms. Gregorova, to start with, what are the not only the emotional part, but also the topics that you wish would have been tackled a bit more or at all by Ms. von der Leyen?
Mm-hmm. Well, first and foremost, given that this State of the Union speech is arriving just after the end of COFE, the Conference on the Future of Europe. It has been addressed just like in the last point almost, and there were not really many promises on what will be done by the Commission or by the institutions. And also, I felt like it was kind of a slap in the face by Ms. von der Leyen saying that the treaties deserve, a change in terms of, I think it was solidarity with between generations. Yeah. And but there are no promises on changing of treaties in terms of, for instance, going from unanimity to qualified majority voting, which is something that most of the citizens really wanted. And in general, there is a huge blockade against any kind of change of treaties. But suddenly, for solidarity between generations, that's possible. So that was kind of disappointing, and in general, the coffee coverage topic. And secondly, I would kind of say the not really addressing enough the problem of countries like Hungary within Europe. Because if you talk about how unified we are and how there is a huge solidarity, but still it is coming from, you know, a person who is German, and we all kinda, and I'm sorry, maybe Hilde will have other opinions here, but the whole Europe is kinda currently unhappy with Germany, what stance it took at the beginning of the war of aggression, and also with Hungary completely screwing us over. It's like this should have been addressed also more, but it's connected to the qualified majority, so yeah.
And so what's your opinion, Ms. Bentele?
Yeah, I would have different priorities, because I think for me, the thing, the most important thing is energy prices, and I think this was kind of touched, but it was kind of, you know, we think that, we will evaluate that, and so on and so on. But I mean, first the empathy point, you know, that we are, you know, going into recession, that we have the situation that companies have to shut down, you know, that they have bills they cannot swallow anymore. And this might also lead to uprisings, you know, I mean, and you know, we lost so much time with regard to the energy issue. And now after the summer break, we are like 2-3 weeks after the summer break already, and we still have not, I mean, it's difficult. There is no silver bullet, but there are some solutions. And I was also saying this now many times, we need an investment package with regard to interconnectors. You know, this is what everybody's saying, that we can really lift the solidarity. Solidarity was a red line in her speech, but with regard to solutions for the energy crisis, it was very weak. And I think this is what people ask now most for. And also member states, you know, I mean, the last Energy Council was without results. So, I mean, this is really pressing. And there was no clear, I mean, she wouldn't, you know, it was like a panoply of
She was not committing to something very precise, and could be ready.
She announced several things, but she would not say, okay, we do this 2-3 things because we consider them best. I mean, it's difficult to choose, but something needs to be on the table, you know, to give hope to people. You know, it might be a price cap, whatever. But so that was not enough, I would say. Yeah.
We'll talk about energy in a bit later, because you're right. This was the big political topic of the roundtable all around Europe, and there was big expectation on that. But the first part of Ms. Valeri's speech was about the war in Ukraine, the situation in Ukraine, and someone in the chat was saying, and I think he's right, saying there was actually two speeches, one on Ukraine and one pretty general, let's stuff whatever we can in there. But on Ukraine, when Ms. van der Leyen spoke, she actually had a very martial tone on the way she was describing the state of relation with Russia. She said that Putin was, and I'm quoting her, she was actually at war with our energy, our economy, our values, our future, and ultimately our democracy. So do you agree with this very martial way of describing the relation between the EU and Russia? Because if we listen to President von der Leyen, she's describing the EU being basically at war with Russia. So what's your take, Ms. Gregorova, to start maybe?
I quite agree with your assessment that the language on Russia quite shifted from the past years, especially, and I think this was kind of a narrative through the whole speech. Also, what we messed up in the past, we need to now, you know, listen to the visionaries, listen to the people who told us so many times over who are the real adversaries, what are the real problems. That was actually very nice. I quite appreciated it, because I am one who always is kind of protecting visionaries, because I think they are not getting enough space. So yeah, that was good. What I found in this segment about also Ukraine quite unsatisfactory was the mention of the European political community. That was like the biggest letdown I experienced from this. I didn't want to mention it immediately because it's not a priority, but you know, for these countries, candidate status means joining the EU, not some EPC, not some French idea of how not to accept any other country ever again. So I am kind of disappointed that the Commission is taking this idea as its own also.
What about you, Ms. Bentele?
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine took a large part of the speech, maybe a bit too long, I would say, because we have heard this, we know this stance. But as Marketa said, I mean, she deduced other points from that. And I would emphasize visionaries, and she mentioned Denmark, who then started, the expansion of renewable energy. So she made this kind of connection, which was good. But what I was missing, what my colleagues were missing, was the defense issue, because she talked about the European army, but that was like very, general. And I mean, what we are lacking is a European defense plan. I mean, because we have seen that we do not cooperate well. We're not well armed. We are doubling efforts. We are not efficient, and so on and so on. So, a huge problem with regard our military dimension of the EU. And I think that was not fairly addressed. I mean, if Marketa said that, Germany is being criticized because of not delivering heavy weapons, but we need a European dimension. If you do not want to constantly look at the United States and very well said, if we listen to our colleagues in the East, then there are ideas how we can address this. And I think with regards to any kind of treaty changes, the biggest potential is in defense cooperation. So, and she was missing this point, which is a pity, because it was, it was there.
And moving on a bit on the second big topic. So on Ukraine, indeed, it was taking quite a long time, and beyond the emotional part, where we were lacking a bit of substance. Despite the mea culpa that Ms. Gregorova underlined, that was reflecting a bit what Prime Minister Sanna Marin said the day before, saying, okay, you should have listened to us, and there was a bit of mea culpa of Ms. von der Leyen saying, yes, we should have listened, we didn't. But the second big topic was energy. So you already explained that you were a bit frustrated with this, but still, there were announcements that were made by Ms. von der Leyen. We heard about the Commission wanted to cap the price on gas, taxing energy companies, reducing the energy consumption. All things that were meant to, let's say, help citizens pay their bills during the winter. So do you think that these announcements were, let's say, up to the task, or the Commission should have gone further than that, and then what should they have proposed? So, Ms. Bentele, maybe to start.
Yeah, I mean, I said I was missing the focus of all these measures, because all of them are being discussed for the last week. So I was missing the focus. What is your solution? And then what we also criticized, I mean, there are proposals on the table without democratic participation, because today we were voting on the renewable energy directive, and we were voting on the energy efficiency regulation. So, I mean, she could have made this connection, and I mean, this is done between the Council and the Commission. So, on all these proposals, we are out. So it's pretty undemocratic, and it will directly affect our member states, our citizens. So I think this is a big critique point, and she's coming into Parliament in the place where we discuss energy policy, and then that is our biggest accusation. She's leaving us out. It's undemocratic. Later, she talks a lot about democracy, but in this regard, we were left out. So this was not that was not good. I mean, I liked, of course, what she said about hydrogen, because she acknowledged that we have to move forward. She announced investments and so on. So this is all good, but these are long-term things. I mean, what we need one measure or two measures which would have immediate effects, which would be decided very fast now, and which need to have immediate effects now for the citizens.
Yeah, because I mean, like you mentioned, it's a bit ironic that she comes to the Parliament, which is supposed to be the institution representing it's the House of European citizens, and there is nothing concrete that citizens can relate to, and it's in any case policies that the Parliament who represent citizens will not have a say into. So indeed, that was a bit of an odd situation. And what about Ms. Gregorova? What's your take on this whole energy part of the speech?
Well, I'm not an energy expert, but what I would kind of like to bring to the table is part of the speech, or it really quickly touched upon the CHIPS Act and how, you know, it was announced in the last State of the Union speech, and currently there's some gigafactory being built, so it's so effective. Well, I am working on the CHIPS Act. It's not like the discussions are horrible. Nobody really cares. It will be very expensive. We don't have the money and it's not working. Why am I saying this? Because she sold it as a huge success just because she opened the topic. So when there are then like openings of topics in terms of like energy and the hydrogen, for instance, I cannot really know how successful it will be. Do we have the money for that? If we now have to, you know, work with the energies and also, of course, food crises. Like, I understand we need to talk about energies, and it's really nice to listen to a story of Italian ceramic workers. But also, what about like food insecurities that a lot of these people will have and have? So for me, in the energy sector, well, as I say, I'm not an expert, but there was so much lacking, so much like security in terms of what will be possible, that personally, as the non-expert, if I listen to this just without any other like briefings, I would be like, yeah, we have nothing. You know, I don't know.
I actually, since you raised this point in the chat, someone was also regretting the lack of mention, the lack of discussion on food security, despite the fact that it's a current issue for many European citizens on the side of energy. It's linked to the conflict in Ukraine, so there were some expectations on that, and yeah, there was frustration that it was not tackled at all.
Thanks, Chet.
Chat agrees with you, so it's perfect. Another announcement that was made, again, with not a lot of details, were the discussion on raw materials. So van der Leyen described rare earth, lithium, which are essential to build batteries, solar panels, this kind of thing, as pretty much the new oil. So she said, like in the 70s, we built our economy on oil. In the future, we will build our economy on these rare earth, these raw material. And so she announced a new initiative called the European Critical Raw Material Act, which is more or less meant to stockpile this material. So I will ask you, Miss Bentele, because you actually worked on this topic in the past. So what's your take on the first, explain a bit what are the stakes for people around this debate, and then what's your take on what Ms. van der Leyen announced?
Well, the stakes are high because we're working on the transformation, digital and energy transformation. And for this transformation, we really need these raw materials, critical raw materials. So, I mean, if we are successful or not depends on if our supply chains are working. And there we have, like, after the pandemic, we have some doubts because we are highly dependent from China. She didn't mention, I think, China, but it is China. It is this one country, not only in terms of sourcing, but also in terms of processing. So, as Marketa said, I mean, this is the idea of Thierry Breton to get back some, you know, crucial strategic productions into Europe to secure, to a certain extent, you know, our industrial processes. I think that's a fair idea, you know, that we are better, you know, that we are more resilient than in times of pandemic, when we saw we were lacking, you know, masks and medical equipment and so on, you know, very, very crucial things. So I think that's a learning process, which is good. And I mean, I was expecting this Raw Materials Act for quite a while, but I was then surprised to hear it, because I heard there are many discussions in the Commission ongoing. So it was very clear, it was very explicit, very detailed. I welcome this, so I'm happy with this part, and we can work on that. I mean, if it's going to be successful, yes or no, Battery Act, Chips Act, I mean, there are different opinions about it, but it's very clear, and this is a job creation too. I mean, I think what also Greens like, that we bring back the solar production, that we keep the wind production in Europe, and so on, and that we also build electrolyzers here, which need a lot of critical raw materials. So, I mean, I mean, for me, it's also part of this sovereignty, resilience issue, and that's fine. I mean, to cut down dependencies, because that was the dependency issue. We were dependent on Russia, on one single country, and we have other dependencies which we have to bring down. And of course, she put it in a bigger context of partnerships, of trade agreements, and she was very clear, that she would do trade agreements with Chile, Mexico, India, Australia, New Zealand, and so on. So, I mean, that was an agenda, I think, a free trade agenda also, which popped in. And also being member of the EU-Canada delegation, we could see it 5 years later after entering into force. Trade has increased about 30%, and we are very lucky to have Canada with regard to energy supply, with regard to raw material supply, with technology cooperation, and so on. So I think it was a point there. I mean, that was, for me, a good point.
And for you, Ms. Gregorova, since the raw material aspect is a bit linked to an extent with the question of production of chips, and on which you're pretty critical as it is now. So what's your take on this? And also, like chat was wondering why exactly you were critical of the Chips Act currently. What are the challenges that are being made, despite Ms. van der Leyen claiming that it's a huge success?
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, chips are one of the absolutely most critical goods that we now will have within, society as a whole, because it's literally in everything and in thousands. It's not like one chip per mobile phone or something. And of course, that not only because of China or because of the war, but also because of climate change and very bad weather, there has been a lot of problems in the biggest companies, in America, in South Korea, in Taiwan. And so these 3 pretty much biggest companies, and the Taiwanese one is handling 75% of production of the most basic chips. So I think South Korea has the most advanced ones. It's very problematic, because even though these countries are democratic, we want to trade with them, we cannot get dependent again. So that's what kinda in the EU lingo we call it strategic independence too, or strategic autonomy in this regard. Because these things we need to have here on our own. And I think that with the Chips Act, what's the problem is that the ambition was, I hope it was, because I don't want to say is, I hope we will kind of change this in the parliament, that we will manufacture as much of the basic chips as possible in here. But that's super expensive. That's impossible to fund with the current budget of the EU. Even the US has huge problems to fund it, and they quite dedicated their budget to it. UK is also trying to look into it, but for just one country, so that's fine. EU is much bigger market. What I think we should rather do and go with the direction is the production of the really advanced tech, the most advanced chips there are, the smallest ones, the real nano ones, the most well, I don't want to go into technical details, but usually European Union actually has quite a huge know-how in this, so there's a huge opportunity, and that's why I was also kind of disappointed by von der Leyen saying that it's great we have I think she literally said gigafactory here, because it's that's not what we need at all. It's nice that they came, but they probably came because they will expect in the future a lot of funding, because of course they will not be competitive on the market with Taiwan, with South Korea, and with US, and we will not be able to provide them with the funding. So that's kind of short-sighted in my opinion. But yeah, I think we will be also able to focus more on the on where we are strong as EU, which is the know-how.
Let's stay with you, Ms. Gregorova, but on a different topic, because Ms. van der Leyen also announced a defense of democracy package, in which she said that the EU should not allow autocracies, Trojan horse, attack our democracy from within. There was a news that broke out yesterday, I think, that we discovered that apparently Russia financed up to $300 million worth of finance towards non-Russian party to try to push its agenda. And since you worked quite a lot in the interference, the foreign interference committee, what's your take on this? Since you work quite a lot, do you think it's good time that the Commission finally take up this issue? Is it enough? What do you think?
Well, I have no idea what will be in the Defense of Democracy package, as I heard about it for the first time, which kind of makes me anxious about it, because we, especially being part of the INGE committee, focusing on foreign interference, coming up with the biggest report, and of course, cooperating with the Office of Commissioner Jourova, who has disinformation and foreign interference in her portfolio. We are focusing on a lot of things that need to be tackled, such as financing, of political parties, transparency in political advertisement, all these little things. And I said the name Jourova, and I also said Commission. I won't name and shame, but there has not really been a strong push within the Commission for any kind of fight on disinformation that would require legislation, that would require something that makes obligatory, some things. So actually some commissioners already have to move some remarks about disinformation into DSA, because that's a regulation. So that's something that the companies have to oblige to be on our market. And we, of course, in the report from INGE, we are describing on, I think, 60 pages what should be done. There's a lot to be done. So in this environment, when I know the Commission has not been past 3-4 years very eager to do anything, and it was kind of like a hot potato between the Commissioner Jourova and Mr. Borrell and his strategic compasses, etc., and hybrid toolboxes. It's kind of like I am happy that Ursula von der Leyen announced Defense of Democracy package, but I am absolutely anxious about what it will contain and whether it will not be quick remedies to complex topics. No, we can't have any more quick remedies. We need long-term approaches. So I do hope they are accounting for them.
And you, Ms. Bentele, I mean, I'm not going to ask you if it's a good thing that the Commission wants to defend European democracy. I hope the answer is yes, but isn't it a bit worrying that the Ms. von der Leyen announced something and actually the people who have been working on the topic for literally years at this point have never heard about anything the Commission has been working on? Is that a bit emblematic of Ms. von der Leyen doing a nice announcement, but then it's empty and parliamentarians actually don't have the ammunition to judge whether it's something genuine or not?
Yeah, I mean, I was also mentioning with regard to the energy, we had a discussion this very day about, very, important measures. And I feel Marketa, that's maybe a disrespect, or a lack of knowledge what we are doing, what we are discussing and what we are pushing for. So that's a pity. I mean, you should be a model, a democratic model, and really listen to your parliament and know what's going on there. And there's a lot of expertise there too, I think. I mean, like Marketa's. So that's really a pity. I mean, I as I said, I was happy because with regard to raw materials, there was a very close cooperation with Thierry Breton, Šefčovič, many other commissioners, director generals, and also with all the groups. So that was on the agenda. That was long-term plan. But I have to say, it was an initiative report of the parliament who brought this issue back again on the table. And again, we had another example today, Marketa, yesterday, you will also be happy about it, about deforestation. It was a legislative report from the parliament who pushed this issue on the agenda, and it was followed up very fast by Sinkevičius. And today we passed a legislative, stance, which is really a game changer, or can become a game changer. So, but this connection to recognize what we are doing, and I think Parliament was moving really fast in times of crisis, in times of war. I mean, what we passed before the summer break, I mean, we had constant meetings, and I think it's the same for Marketa. But what we are doing on the Fit for 55 draft package, and then we adjusted it to repower. So, I mean, and that's just a pity that she didn't say we joined forces, Parliament and Commission, and we together, are moving things forward. That's maybe the message which could have sent, and which would be better, if you bring parliamentarians on your side.
All right.
It's a State of the Union, not State of the European Commission,
That's a fair point. I mean, she comes to Parliament for that.
True, very true. That's a good point. Yeah, true. Yeah.
Final topic I want to discuss before there's a question in the chat that I find very interesting. I want to discuss with you is the question of the change of treaties. So we've heard von der Leyen said that she supported the launch of a convention, which is like one path potentially leading to change in the EU treaties. But like you mentioned at the beginning, she didn't say anything in terms of what she would want to be reformed. In there, she said, "Okay, I support that there's something changed, but I won't tell you what I want." So, do you think there is a genuine intention from von der Leyen to have treaty changes, or is it just lip service because the Conference on the Future of Europe and the Parliament want treaty changes, but she knows that in any case, Council doesn't want it, so nothing is going to happen. So, do you think she was genuine, or she just wanted to score 3 points with MEPs in the plenary? Who wants to take the point first?
Well, I can go forward because I was member of the conference. So.
Okay, well then, perfect. Go ahead. Go ahead then.
I was working a year very closely on this issue, and again, it's a pity because the Parliament passed a resolution after the conference, and we were saying very clearly in which fields we want to have treaty change, because this was our mandate. You cannot have just ask for a convention. You have to say very clearly in which fields you want to do the treaty change. So we made the effort to say, it's in defense, it's in health, it's in foreign affairs. So we made the points again. She was missing. We put it forward to her, and that's a pity. But also, we were very much disappointed by the reaction of the Council. The Council almost, I don't know if they even had it on the agenda or they just had 10 minutes talk. So Macron made no effort in this regard. And all those who paid lip service before, nobody was really interested in. So, it would have been also the task of maybe Ursula von der Leyen, to break this this council a little bit, or to prepare the ground for a convention. Because just to saying like this, knowing that the council is fully against, and I don't know, Marketa, but the Czechs also, I think, signed this letter that they would never accept any kind of treaty changes. There was this 13 member states who said they don't want to change anything. So now we have a Czech presidency, so nothing will go on. So this is really, she was on our side. She was mentioning it, but how to implement it, that would be would have been an interesting answer. But just to mention it and also not to say where to change the treaties. Not satisfying. I agree.
Yeah, given the mention of Czech presidency, I actually wanted to start with saying that I spoke just yesterday about it, pretty much about the treaty changes with one of our Czech government representatives now here during the presidency. And he literally told me there is only 4 member states that want treaty changes, only 4, that there's no majority. He didn't name. So we will never know.
I think Germany is in favor, but
who are the brave ones? But it's very problematic because then, I might even believe that the Commission might want it, and of course we know that the Parliament wants it. But if the Council doesn't want it, and 23 member states will always block it, then we can't do anything about it. Or not anything, of course. Actually, the Czech presidency is quite flexible in looking into the so-called passerelle clauses. I am not really an expert on this, but apparently that's a way to change certain things within the treaties without really going through the way of treaty change, which I am not making any promises that the Czech presidency will completely shift the debate and make huge changes, but they know the term. and they are willing to
very
negotiate.
important.
So let's push them.
That would be a pragmatic thing, that would give hope that something, changes. But without, she didn't, explain it. She didn't say, okay, we can have a solution. But she again was raising expectations. That's very bad, I would say, for all the citizens who took part in it.
Exactly. And speaking of citizens, I have someone in the chat who's asking actually, why aren't member states in favor of treaty changes? What are the issues with changing the treaties? So, in short, there are many different reasons for which different member states are not so keen on changing treaties. But if you had to sum up, let's say the main category of reasons, go ahead.
They are afraid of losing their powers. It's like that easy. They are so afraid of something like a federalization that even if it means completely blocking the effectiveness of the union itself, they will hold on to their national member states' powers. Sorry to be so cynical. Of course, it's more complex. But if you want a short answer, this would be it from my side.
All right, that's fair. I mean, another reason you would want to underline, Ms. Bentele, as to why some member states are not so keen?
Oh, yeah, I fully subscribe to what Marketa has said, but I think there's also the bad experience about the last treaty change, a bit of failed referendums, and this is maybe still in member states' minds, and this is, I like one idea very much, that was the EU-wide referendums, and maybe we should not, vote or agree to treaty changes on a national basis. I mean, the flow is already there, that then this would be done according to, this would be a criticism of national governments, but it would not be the EU issue. And we wanted to overcome this with the conference, but there's such a long way to go. And as I said, in the energy debate, we have a very bad tendency, of now in times of crisis, then there's even less interest to involve the parliament. And this is what we were already saying now. It's not getting more democratic, it's getting more intergovernmental, but we are losing time. That's what I said. There was no special energy minister council. We are pressuring, we are saying, we see the people, we are the representatives of the people, we see how they suffer from energy prices. So I mean, that's very important that we are both into this boat, the council and the parliament, and of course we should together push the commission.
I'm looking at time. I know that you have to leave in 5 minutes, Ms. Bentele, so I would like to cover one final question before you go, which comes from the chat. It's a more general question on the usefulness of this whole State of the Union exercise. Is it something that you see as useful for MEPs and in general for the EU and citizens, or is it just let's say a pure communication exercise where the Commission is printing around and say, okay, this is what we want. Look how great we are as European Commission. So, how useful in the end is really the State of the Union, in your opinion? Ms. Gregorova, maybe to start.
Oh, me, okay.
No.
I was being credited that Hilde will speak so that I can tone down my usual kind of cynicism, but okay, you will get a full blast. Look, I am a fan of plenary speeches in general, because that's the way to transfer information to citizens, because they cannot sit with us hours and hours in meeting rooms in negotiations, So of course, a lot of people will tell you that plenaries are like a theater only for your social media posts. But honestly, yeah, that's also the point. And it's an important point. You need to present what you just negotiated in a concise, short manner to post it on the social media where the citizens can see it. So if this is the purpose that the State of the Union serves, then of course it's great. Ursula von der Leyen showcases millions of EU citizens what is the State of the Union, at least from hers, or as we kind of said, from the Commission's perspective. If the European Parliament was more included, that would be amazing. I would very appreciate it. But this is also like good enough in terms of what it is. But if the State of the Union speech was supposed to be some kind of, common working document with which we really set like our common goals on which we want to work into the future, I'm sorry, that's horrible, you know, because nobody consults it with us. I don't know who writes it for Mrs. von der Leyen, whether all the commissioners are cooperating on it, whether they are giving her their briefings, then why are some aspects missing, like the defense aspect, you know? So yeah, it's like two aspects. For citizens, information good. For us to work together, nah.
Ms. Bentele.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree with Marketa that the Commission President coming to the plenary is very important. So, and I think, you know, it gives insights in how the Commission is thinking. So it gives us also hints where we have to criticize and push and what we can expect. But as we were really shocked that agriculture was forgotten. I mean, it was not mentioned at all in a food crisis where we talk about food sovereignty and so on. Defense was not mentioned. I mean, really, there are many small details, but, you know, some big points were missing. So really, I think also Ursula von der Leyen should come more often or her advisors should come more often and listen, you know, to the parliament and to the committees, you know, what's going on. So I think it's a good exercise because it gives, opportunity to exchange, and it gives, the insights into the Commission. And but these insights today were a bit kind of not so good. So, because the priorities are not really fully there, and the leadership was also missing. So. Yeah, it's an exercise. We should not abolish it, but I don't know if it's useful for the citizens, because there is a lot of advertisement going around the State of the Union speech. But I don't know if people get the information they're looking for. For this, it needs to be more concise, shorter. Bit
more poetical, maybe more focused on the key priorities, something that can be translated in reality, because. It's true that at some point, even myself, I lost a bit track of the speech, because like she was going into technicalities on the energy market. She was saying, "Oh yes, there is the TTF, which is that." Was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just going to tune out for a couple of minutes. So at some point, there's a question of visibility. So I'm looking at the time. So it's almost 9, so I don't want to keep you any longer, Ms. Bentele, since you have another appointment. So thank you very much for coming. Ms. Gregorova, if you want to stay a few more minutes to cover questions from the chat, it's fine by me. But Ms. Bentele, thanks again for coming with us and debriefing a bit the State of the Union. I hope you enjoyed the experience and that you will come back.
That's right.
Perfect. Well, I'm sure we'll have the occasion to discuss your work in the Parliament more in the future. So thanks again, and good luck for your next meeting.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. So now that is just Ms. Gregorova and us. Next question for you. I had a few questions I kept for you. Also, first I need to sort out my my setup, because of course it's a mess. Up, you don't see anything, don't worry, it's just gonna be a minute. But yeah, the one question was, I'm gonna read it to make it simpler. With sanction on Russian oligarchs that are pro-war, why didn't the EU sanction China and the Chinese Communist Party officials, since they are de facto supporting the Russians, including to circumvent the sanctions of the EU? So why isn't the EU going after the Chinese?
Mm-hmm. That's always a difficult question. First and foremost, if the world was simple and ideal, we would sanction all the authoritarian regimes, tell them to go, where the sun doesn't shine, and would be done with it. However, we don't live in this ideal sunshiny world. And to survive, often, because of the critical materials, because of the connected, globalized world, we sometimes have to find a common ground, talk to each other, and do business with each other. I'm not a huge fan of it personally, but I'm not living under a rock. I do understand, that this is happening, and we are so much already interconnected in trade that sometimes it would be almost like economically suicidal to cut some ties. And, cutting ties with Russia was already on the verge of economic suicide. Let's be honest. We don't have food and energy crisis because the sanctions were easy and because it will be easy to keep up the sanctions. And we already have some sanctions on China because of the past. So the thing is, we would not potentially even survive because we need some kind of trade and business ties with China. So I personally think this is like the most compromised rational ground that the EU officials could find. Of course, it can always be better, but once you start like saying, well, China, you are not saying too loud that you are not supporting, that you are supporting EU and not Russia. Once this is starting to happen and we will sanction them a little bit, they can retaliate, such as they cut completely their business ties with Lithuania. And this might happen to other EU countries, and they would be harmed by that economically. So sorry for such a long answer, but this is really not an easy topic. This is for like a whole another debate. So I just want to make clear that, I am very critical towards EU usually in terms of like not upholding human rights, but here I kind of want to stand behind the EU because I do understand how difficult choice this had to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at some point, Ms. Bentele said that, and rightly so, that the Commission and everyone makes a big deal about the State of the Union. Like it's the thing not to miss in Brussels and beyond. And the chat will say, yeah, well, lots of advertisement. It depends on the country. So the question, I mean, I know in France, for instance, it's a big regular complaint of French MEP who say, oh, why isn't the State of the Union live on TV? Every year it's a big mess, and sometimes we have the public television that puts it live on TV. But for instance, in Czech Republic, is there advertisement a bit about the State of the Union, or is that something that goes completely under the radar and nobody talks about it?
It's honestly getting really better, but I don't know if it's because we now have the presidency. Like several journalists even came to Strasbourg from Czechia. Woo. And sorry, it's a huge thing for us. So this year it was kinda covered in Czech Republic. I wouldn't say like hugely. It was not definitely streamed on TV at all. However, there were articles, there were like Instagram stories. There was even a bunch of influencers, within.
Yes, I saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
So yeah, maybe we will see next year after the Czech presidency whether it will repeat itself, because last year this was not the case, but this year's it's better.
And so how do you? I mean, it's again not an easy question, but how should we do to like make the State of the Union less about the Berlaymont, about the Commission patting itself in the back, and more about Europe and more about citizens, and so like something that is more palatable to citizens?
Well, one thing that comes to my mind is that what Ursula von der Leyen mentioned regarding to COFE was some kind of citizens panel as a regular feature of our democracies. And honestly, if this citizens panel was really established and it was by other things also tasked with preparation of State of the Union speech, that would be great, I think, because it would literally be done by citizens who are like involved in the institutional process, but are still like ordinary citizens, kind of to the citizens, but of course presented by the head of the Commission. And if this wasn't the case and no citizens panel will exist and be a permanent feature or something, I'm not sure what she meant by that, then I think it can be improved by the Commission more cooperating with the other institutions, with the presidency, of course, the current one, and the parliament. Like we said it here today already, and I don't want to repeat myself, but it's really awkward to hear about some plans for legislation for the first time in the State of the Union speech. It's really awkward to miss some like fields like agriculture and defense, because there's no reason for that. She has all the time in the world, to speak for 20-25 minutes if she wants. So if we were more included, then I think it would really also improve definitely the language and the concerns of citizens.
Someone in the chat is saying something I have to say I agree a bit. I agree quite a bit. Is saying about the citizen panel, if they are made like a permanent, which the Commission already said that they will want to do. Would it be the problem that the only people who would be in the citizen panel or would be people who are already either very pro-European or very Eurosceptic, and so it would not be the average Joe. It would be people who are already very passionate about the EU one way or another. So how then do we bring and that in a way that's one of the criticism that was made towards the Conference of Future of Europe, is that it remains something only for people who already had an opinion about it. So how do we make it something more democratic in a way that involves more average people, the average citizen?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I would brainstorm, and I really say I have no idea what the Commission has in plan, so this is my brainstorming. Hopefully von der Leyen listens. That it would be great if the directly elected MEPs who are like honestly closest to the citizens, if each group or even each party nominated some citizens and it would be put together from them. Because, in the parliament, we also have like super European nerds and super Eurosceptics, and then those who are always trying to make compromises, and then populists, So why shouldn't they nominate like their citizens who would be like apolitical, but of course somehow convene to the points of view of the parties, and then they can try to coordinate among each other within the citizens panel. As I say, I'm brainstorming. It might not work. It might get stuck completely and they wouldn't move forward because of one troll or something, But if you want to prevent that it will be totally polarized towards just one part, then I would say that this nomination process from various parties would be interesting.
Final question before I let you enjoy your evening or work some more if you have some work. If you had to grade the State of the Union of this year on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being terrible, 10 being the best speech ever, what's the grade you give to Ms. von der Leyen?
Oh my God!
I know it's a tough one.
Well. I will quickly tell your audience that I actually had to not listen in, but read part of the State of the Union speech, because in the morning I was sitting down with Azerbaijani delegation and arguing with them about why they are attacking Armenia, and then I kind of had to go list through the speech of the Union and see that there is only praise of how we diversified our gas inputs, and there is mention like Norway, like amazing ally, US and Algeria, I think, and nothing about Azerbaijan, even though we doubled the amount of gas we are getting from them, even though the Azerbaijani dictator is killing Armenians. And we, did all of this because Russian dictator is killing Ukrainians. And it's like all of this over again. So sorry to prolong this evaluation so much, but because of this, because I am kind of sick, I have cold, and because I was really angry with Azerbaijani delegation this morning and people are dying, I'm giving it like 2 Ursulas out of 10. Yeah.
2 out of 10. Okay, yeah, so that's That's a rough assessment. She will have to retake the exam. Definitely. All right. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Gregorova, for taking the time, especially since you are sick. Thanks for doing this debrief a bit with us. Chat. Make sure to thank her. You can follow her on Twitter. You can see that below the video feed. Stay with me, chat, because we're gonna continue the debriefing. Ms. Gregorova, thank you again. I wish you a good evening and well, get better.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening, you and chat.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye. Up. Let me end everything. Hello, chat. I will pass into the discussion thing. I just need to end the meeting in Zoom. Let me do... I want to do this. And I want to do that. Yay. Welcome back. Tell me, did you like the discussion or not? I thought it was very interesting. I was not expecting them to be so negative to frustrated, more than negative. They were more frustrated than anything, I would say. But it was quite interesting, and in the end, I'm quite happy that it was only 2 MEPs, because initially I wanted to have 4 MEPs. I wanted to have someone from PP, someone from Renew, someone from the Socialists, someone from the Greens. In the end, because agenda is what it is, it's always a nightmare, especially because MEPs in plenary, they have tons of things to do, so they can't be everywhere at once. So in the end, it was just it was already great. Ms. Bentele and Ms. Gregorova, someone from PP, someone from the Greens. So I thought it was balanced enough. So I maintained with 2 MEPs. But yeah. I'm glad that 2 MP, I agree, is the good format that gives enough time to go a bit in depth into the different questions without being too long. 4 MPs would have been difficult. I don't know if impossible, but at least I would have to ask very, very short answers. Let's see. In Denmark, 2 is a passing grade. Okay, Slovenia, it's passing grade in primary school, but means 50%, not 2 out of 10. Okay. The interviewer had a like Calimero level poor EPs. Yeah, I mean, like I said, they were a bit frustrated about the exercise, and to an extent, I understand, because especially if there is a lot of things that are missing. Sometimes it's a legislation that MEPs in the end will not involved. Will not have a say. For instance, on energy, is going to be mostly a discussion between the Commission and the Council. The Parliament will not have a say, because it's on taxation and this kind of thing. So sometimes it's a bit frustrating also for MEPs to be excluded of the loop. Let's see, chat. These two were quite respectful to each other. Oh, generally speaking, MEPs are pretty respectful to each other. I mean, it's the tradition. MEPs are used to work together, so it's fairly rare, unless you have 2 MEPs that really can't stand each other. They will do well together in chat. They can be civil with one another. That's the point. Thinking of this double microphone setup. Oh yeah, because I have the this is the microphone for Zoom, and this is the mic for like the stream. So that's why I have the double double microphone. So yeah, this is a bit the secret of the setup. Oh shit! You will have an ad. Apologies about that. I forgot to stop it. So yeah, you will have an ad. So sorry about that. You hear me better than the Zoom people? Yes, you do. You do hear me, people. I mean, I have it's a decent quality mic on the headphone, so MEPs hear me well on the Zoom, but you do hear me better because it's this mic that is connected to the stream. So you basically to go into the technical, you have the sound of the MEPs on the Zoom, but you have my mic for my own input. Anyway, let's go back a bit to the State of the Union, and actually let me change quickly up browser. Where are you, browser? You're there. I need to up. Where are you? There you go. So I have the State of the Union, the speech that was pronounced by von der Leyen this morning. I won't we won't do a reading of the entire thing. If you want to have the link, actually I'm going to post it right now. There you go. You can also find it there is a general page of the commission about it. You can have it in your respective language. So if you want suddenly to read it in your native language, you can find it there. But for now, we have the speech of Ursula von der Leyen. So like I mentioned, to give a bit of context, it's the big political speech of the year. It's not so long. It was not created that long ago because it's only the 12th speech State of the Union. It was created in 2010. So it's 2010. Yes, something like, yeah. Thank you. So it's something that came from José Manuel Barroso. He did something positive, good for him. So it's the way it's meant as the, let's say, the window, the big moment to explain to MEPs and to, of course, to citizens what are the big initiatives, what are the priorities, do a bit of storytelling about the EU and explain what are the priorities and the legislation that will come. And this year was especially important for two reasons. First, for a question of context, because of course we have the war in Ukraine. That was a big game changer. That's for sure. It had a bit of an electroshock effect for the EU, and since the 24th of February, on Twitter, I was saying that it was being a bit of a fight or flight reflex for the EU. I mean, when Ukraine was invaded, European countries felt, oh shit, if we let this slide, if we just do business as usual, we're gonna get screwed over. One of us is next on the list, and the EU will just collapse. So we need to deal with it seriously, and we need to rethink the way we do our European politics, the way we deal with Russia, the way we deal with some strategic sectors. So here the main one is energy. So there is a big context there that made it special, and especially since that energy has become a big topic, not only in Brussels but most importantly for citizens. Citizens now are feeling very much the bite of the energy crisis with the price of gas that exploded. Like von der Leyen was saying that prices got multiplied by 10 compared to prior I think prior to the pandemic. So it's pretty impressive. Like there was the co-president of the left, the far left group in the parliament. So Manon Aubry, a French MEP, she. To illustrate her point, she actually had asked French citizens to send their energy bill. So she was like showing, okay, I have the bill, this bill from this guy is paying 200 euros. He's telling me that he doesn't know if he will be able to pay at this rate during winter. I have this one that is 2,000 euro because it's an entire family. It's not sustainable. So it was I thought it was a very smart way to do storytelling about it, because it was in a way forcing the commission back on the ground, say, okay, beyond let's say the meta debate on the sovereignty and all that, you have very concrete consequences for the daily lives of people, and people that don't know if they can afford their bills, if they can make it through winter. And that was a very, I thought, a very smart way to in terms of political communication. And I need to rewatch the answer of von der Leyen, but from what I read, von der Leyen made an absolutely terrible answer to that by basically telling, answering to to Manon Aubry, because the way it works, so you have at the beginning at 9 o'clock the speech of von der Leyen, so the actual State of the Union. She speaks for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you have the debate. So you have the head of each political group, so the head of the EPP, the Socialists, the Greens, etc., who make their speech about what they thought, and then you have the entire list of MEPs who want to speak, and they can make their point as well. And then at the end, you have Ursula von der Leyen that comes back on stage and basically does an answer of the main points that were raised by the MEPs. And so the answer that von der Leyen apparently did to Manon Aubry, who was telling her, okay, what are you going to do about these energy bills of concrete people who can't pay it? She basically told her, oh, well, they just need to send it to Vladimir Putin, which I find is an absolutely terrible political message, because that's a way, basically, it's as if von der Leyen was saying, it's not my problem, go deal with it with Putin, which is a terrible political message to do, especially since she had the ammunition to answer something else. So I need to rewatch the sequence, but when I read about it, I was like, what the fuck is that kind of political communication? It's absolutely terrible in terms of thing, and completely disrespectful to people. Because I mean, she could have answered to the political argument made by Manon Aubry and say, okay, I don't agree with your political argument, blah blah. That would have been like, let's say, a politician responding to a politician. Here it was a politician looking down on citizens, which is absolutely terrible in terms of communication. But I need to rewatch the thing. Is she quipping in a bar? Yeah, I need to rewatch the sequence. When I read about it, I was like, what the fuck is going on there? Let's see, I missed a couple of things. Best comment I saw from a journalist on Twitter. So there isn't a single mention of food security, farming or fertilizer in the State of the Union. What gives? I guess we're just eating, but okay, yeah. Nice pun indeed. I did hear about raising fertilizer costs, but it was just word in passing in part of the Ukraine stuff. I don't think there was fertilizer. Let me do a check. No, the sound makes it clear that there is no mention of fertilizers in this. Let's see, farming. No, food. No, that's just about the two person who went to help Ukrainian refugees at the beginning of the war. But no mention at all about food. She said something in response to the MEPs. Yeah, that's possible. I have to say, I didn't watch this part of the debate. I watched basically the speech, the comments of the head of each political groups, and then I stopped because I had work to do. So I didn't watch the rest. But it's possible that in the answers she made to MEPs, she talked about it a bit. But it's not in the document that I have here. It's just the raw, let's say, speech in itself. Let me go back into my notes to see like the big, like, let's say, the main quotes that I saw. That like one quote that is good. I think it was the best of the speech was about Ukraine, of course. That's the moment where she was like. Let's say most political. She was making a political argument, saying it's in our vital interest to support Ukraine, and that was the message. That's there, where she was very martial. So okay, let's start a bit above. This is not only a war unleashed by Russia against Ukraine. This is a war on our energy, a war on our economy, a war on our value, and a war on our future. This is about autocracies against democracy, and I stand here with the conviction that with courage and solidarity, Putin will fail and Europe will prevail, which is a very strong kind of rhetoric. You read that, you have the impression that the EU is at war directly with Russia, but I thought it was a very good soundbite, at least from von der Leyen there. What else did I have in terms of quote and interesting things? So she did mention like a few things on the effects of sanctions against Russia. That should be there. So yeah, for Russia financial sector is on life support. We cut 3/4 of Russia's banking sector for international market. 1,000 international companies have left the country. production of cars fell by 3/4. Aeroflot is grounding planes because they have no more spare parts anymore. Russian military is taking chips from dishwasher and refrigerator to fix their military hardware. So at least on the point is, on the industrial level, the sanctions are working, which was the objective of the sanctions. Often you hear the counter argument, oh yeah, but you see the ruble is back on track. They're still making money out of gas that is being exported to the EU. But the sanctions were mostly targeted at the industrial complex of Russia to cripple it. So it was trying to deprive the Russia from key technologies that are made in Europe, in the US, and deprive them of that. And so that the consequence is that you have planes that can't fly. I think I read an article that was saying that like almost 90% of Aeroflot is of the planes. So Aeroflot is the national airline company of Russia. Like 90% of their planes are grounded, or they need to cannibalize the spare parts from one plane to allow the other to fly. So it's a pretty bad thing in terms of spare parts. And as a reaction, like to get into a bit the details, like Russia adopted a law that made it legal to basically steal spare parts. Like they suspended intellectual property rights, so patents, trademarks of Western countries, and basically telling their company, the Russian companies, don't give a shit about intellectual property. You can just take a spare part from the West and reproduce it however you can. Fuck the trademark, fuck the patents. You don't have to pay anything, which shows a bit how desperate they are getting. Up on energy, of course, that was the very big thing on which there were expectations, and listening to the MEPs, they were pretty disappointed by it. A lack of, not of commitment because there were announcements made, but a lack of political emphasis. She was not saying, okay, this is what we need to do now, with very concrete figures. Like the only figures that she mentioned was she said from memory that so she wants the EU propose, the Commission proposed that the profits that were made by an energy producer above a certain price, they would be taxed, and this tax would bring about 140 billion euros to member states, which would allow the member state to support their citizens, to help them pay the bills, this kind of things. But that's pretty much the only like concrete. Actually, let me do 140 billion. Yes. So yeah, there you go. In the money that is that the member state will get from this form of tax has to be used to help consumers directly. So they can't use it for something else. Let's see the comment. She has the luxury to dismiss the rising bills, but it's going to cause trouble with national governance. You're right, especially the one facing election in the next 12 months. You are right. That's why there was a lot of political pressure on von der Leyen. 140 billion. Not exactly the same. But you're right, Andros. There is a lot of pressure from the member state, not only from MEPs, because they are worried. They are worried that they are. Thanks for the follow, fair stream. They are worried that their citizens will not be able to pay the bills. They will not be able to go through winter, and so there will be protests. They will protest against the government, and that makes an explosive situation, especially if you have elections in next 12 months. You are right, Andros, but in general, that makes it very politically explosive for member states. So that's why there was a lot of pressure on the Commission. Like you even had Charles Michel. So Charles Michel is the president of the European Council. So the body of the council with all the head of state and governments who clearly shot at Van der Leyen saying, well, the Commission is not going fast enough with coming up with proposal on energy. Member States need solutions right now, and that's why the Commission came up with solution, even if they were very reluctant to it because it touched to the so-called energy market of the EU, which is working in a very peculiar way. So the reason we have an energy crisis is because of the price of energy. Of course, you have a big increase in the price of gas because of the war in Russia, and for other reasons, and because the explosion of the price of gas did not start in February. It actually dates back from almost a year now. Actually, from 1 year ago, it started. But the problem is that yes, you have gas that is very expensive, but the problem is that the price of gas sets the price for the entire market. The way, okay, I will give you an explanation. The way the price of energy in the EU is set is through indexation. I give you a concrete allegory. Imagine you are a group of 5 friends. You are thirsty. You go to a pub. At the pub, 2 of you will order tap water, 2 of you will order Coke, and the last one will order a fancy beer. You get your drinks. The barman will come and say, okay, since the beer is the most expensive drink that you took and that was the last thing that you required to quench your thirst, you will all pay for your drink the price of the beer. Even if you took tap water, you're going to pay for that tap water the price of the beer. That's the same thing for energy. You're using energy coming from renewable, so let's say at 50 euro per megawatt hour. It doesn't matter because the last bit of energy production that you needed was gas, and the price is at 500 euros per megawatt hour. So that means that you will pay 500 megawatt hour for renewable energy that has a much lower price because the price is indexed on the most expensive energy source required to fulfill the demand. So that's why you have this energy crisis, because no matter what you use in terms of energy sources, the price is set on the most expensive one. And so that's something actually that is criticized in the Commission proposals, because for now the Commission put roughly 5 proposals on the table to deal with the energy crisis. That can be cumulative. It's up to the member state to discuss it. First thing that will be done, which is more or less the most consensual, is to say we will put a maximum price, or not a maximum price. We will say that above a certain price, all the money that is made above that needs to be given back to consumers. So you are a renewable energy producer. You have a cost of 50 euro to a megawatt hour to produce. You sell at if you sell above, let's say, 200 euro per megawatt hour, every money that you made above 200 megawatt hour has to be given back to consumers. That's the first thing. Second thing, it's taxation. There will be the commission. The commission is asking member states to have a specific taxation on the profits that were made by energy producers. So basically, it's one way to say, okay, you made a huge amount of profits because of the price of gas, and you have very low production cost. We will tax you so that we can give a part of it to consumers. Actually, there was a very good soundbite on that. Profit. Okay, that was actually just above. So, in our social market economy, profit is good, but in this time it is wrong to receive extraordinary record profit benefiting from war and on the back of consumers. In this time, profits must be shared and channeled to those who need it the most. So that's the taxation part. Third thing is reduction of energy consumption. So the Commission wants member states to reduce the energy consumption at peak hours. So they will say, okay, at the time of the day where there is the most energy consumption, you need to reduce your consumption by 10%, 15%. It's debated because some member states want it to be voluntary, other mandatory, so it's one point of debate. Fourth thing that is pretty anecdotal is support schemes for companies to help them pay the bills. Basically, it's a support scheme. And the final part, which is the most debated among member states, is to put a cap on the price of gas. The Commission proposed that there will be a maximum price set for gas imported from Russia, meaning that it doesn't matter if Russia sets the price at 600 euro, the Commission will say, well, I don't give a fuck. We're going to pay 300 euro maximum, take it or leave it. So that's the proposal of the Commission. And there is a debate on that because you have those who think that it will antagonize too much Russia, and Russia will completely cut the supply of natural gas to the EU, which in any case it's more or less already doing. And there are other member states who say that actually instead of making a cap only on Russian gas, it should be a cap on all imported gas. So meaning that doesn't matter if the gas comes from Russia, from Algeria, from Norway, from the US, there should be a cap. A different level of cap, like of course the cap must be different if the cap must be, let's say, more aggressive for gas imported from Russia than from a friendlier country like Norway or the US. So something a bit more dynamic, and there are big discussions between member states on that. And the one thing that is not discussed, but that is not put on the table by the Commission, but that is pushed by more and more member states, is to completely decouple the price of gas from the price of electricity. Because like I mentioned, we are screwed over by the fact that gas has very, very high prices, and that set the price for the entire market. And so you have a number of member states who say, let's disconnect gas from the other energy sources. So that way, if the price of gas is at 500 euro, it will not affect the price of nuclear energy, the price of coal, the price of nuclear, etc., etc. So this decoupling, like taking out of the game the price of gas. So that's something that is pushed by quite a few member states on this. And this is very there's a lot of resistance in the Commission because for them it's touching on the wrong levers, let's say, of the energy market. But there is a lot of political pressure. Let's see. Maybe the expression was not well chosen. Manombre is the type to use small quips on Twitter to prove a point, and that is true. The energy and food crisis is very much real, and I do agree that video extremely missed the mark and show how out of touch her cabinet can be. It's true that Manombre is, she's a skilled communicator. She knows how to use small quips to her advantage, but still, using the sentence "tell consumers to go see Putin," even if Manon Aubry had it was the dream quip she could use to her advantage, it's a communication mistake from von der Leyen in any case. But again, we would have to look at the entire quote and the entire sequence. You are right. What else? I will just go through the main points. Yes, the treaty changes. So that's something that that frustrated quite a bit our MEPs because there's no more thing. That's weird. Because you had this entire debate on the conference on the future of Europe, big debate on the fact that the treaties must be changed, they must be updated to remove some vetoes, to give maybe some additional competence to the EU, this kind of thing. But member states do not want to hear about it. Like Ms. Gregorova was saying that according to the Czechs, there's only 4 member states who are in favor of changing the treaties in whatever shape or form. And if you remember, on the day, it was actually a terrible symbol of the whole thing. On the day the conference on the future of Europe was finished, so the day they were officially giving their conclusion, and in which they were saying, okay, we want treaty changes on some things, you had 13 member states who made an official letter who say, well, actually, yeah, sure, the Conference on Future of Europe is a great exercise. We thank citizens, blah, 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 blah. But we don't want to change the treaties. So screw you. Which is terribly symbolic of the Conference on Future of Europe, because the Council never wanted it in the first place. They were forced by the Commission and by member states and by Macron to an extent to do the Conference on Future of Europe, but they hated it with a passion. They never wanted it to occur, and even less so to ask for treaty changes, because they consider that it's not the place of the conference to do that. That it was going to be instrumentalized by the Commission and the Parliament to push their agenda, which is also a fair point. It's true that the Parliament very happily used the Conference of the Future of Europe to push its agenda, and that's a fair that's also a fair point. That the treaties are good enough, we can make it work, blah blah blah. But yeah, it sends a pretty terrible thing, and today von der Leyen did let's say the most minimal service you could do on the topic, saying okay, let's do maybe that's the keyword. Okay. She said, I believe the moment has arrived for European Convention. So European Convention is it's one of the stage leading to a treaty change, something that the Parliament has officially asked. And she says, I support it, but she doesn't say what should be changed, which is a pretty cheap talk, bearing in mind that the Parliament, it's not no news, and Parliament wanted the European Convention. And it doesn't say anything on what she's going to do to convince member states to try to drop their opposition. So first, on the European Convention, the way it works. You have the Parliament and the Commission who have the right to call for thanks for passing by to Ms. Derry. Have a good evening. So the Parliament and the Commission have the right to ask the Council to launch a European Convention. A European Convention is like this big convention, this big conference in which you have representatives of the Parliament, the European Parliament, the Commission, member states, national parliaments, civil society. So it's you bring people from all around to discuss what should be changed in the treaties. And see, it's a bit of a big brainstorming exercise with people saying, okay, what should we change in the treaties? And so they make recommendations, and at the end of the convention, they make recommendations, and these recommendations are sent to member state, to the council, and then the council will launch the actual treaty revision process, and they will take the recommendation and then decide whether they want to follow it or not. But the European Convention is the let's say the brainstorming part of treaty changes, if member states had not already said, okay, we want to change the treaties. To give you, the last time there was a European Convention, as far as I know, was during the Constitutional Treaty, so in 2003 and 4, which and ultimately the thing fell in 2005. But there was the European Convention to brainstorm and then make proposal that became ultimately the constitutional treaties that was rejected de facto. I don't think we will ever get to treaty changes with Hungary and Poland, which is a fair point. I mean, there's two things. First, I think you are right that given the vision of Europe that Hungary and Poland have, which is very different from many member states, there's no way you can make treaty changes as long as the Fidesz is in government, as long as peace is in government, because they have two visions of Europe that is too different from the other. They would never agree to changes that the other would want. Even if also, it has to be mentioned, to be fair, some member states are happy to hide behind Poland and Hungary to not do some treaty, not support some treaty changes. And then you have other categories of member states who don't support certain treaty changes, such as veto, because I mean, to be fair, it's not only Poland and Hungary that don't like vetoes and that like unanimity. If you're at Netherlands, the Netherlands is very happy to keep its veto on taxation issues, and they would not want to give it up. You take Greece and Cyprus, they're not going to give up their veto on foreign affairs, because for them they see it as a protection, because they have very specific interest with Turkey, etc., etc. You have also small member states who are worried that if they lose their veto, then they could get more easily pressured and bullied by the big member state, by France, by Germany, by Spain, by Italy, who would then impose their will on the smaller member states. So there's also another dimension, which is member state governments that are worried about how the change in the treaties would be received by the public opinion, because they remember the 2005, and so some countries are a bit traumatized by the thing, and so they're worried that their citizens would reject the treaty changes in any case. So they say, yeah, let's not play with fire. Let's keep things as they are, even if it's a bit wobbly. We can make it work. Unanimity can be erased if the big states will allow to cut back on their influence as well. It depends on what you call a cutback on their influence, but I mean, for starters, unanimity, you need to say which unanimity you want to remove, because, like, for instance, there is some unanimity that is completely, I would say, completely justified. Like, for instance, you will not remove the unanimity rule to change the treaties. Like, you can't change the treaties, the rules, the basic rules of the EU against the will of its members. So on that, you would have to maintain unanimity. There is a good case to be made. There's a good case to be made on foreign affairs, because or on defense issue, you can't meddle with defense issue without against the will of the national security interest of member states. So there is. It's not, let's say, so black and white in terms of arguments. There are arguments to be made in favor of unanimity staying in some areas. The problem is that you have abuses of the unanimity rules in a number of cases, which is also true. Netherlands changed position on treaty changes after Germany came out in favor. They changed position. They did? Okay. I'm not fully. They say it was now possible. I mean, again, another thing is they agree on treaty changes. Treaty change on what? Not all member states agree on how far they should go. During the summer, Olaf Scholz, the German chancellor, made a speech on actually the reform of the EU. In the speech, he's saying, yeah, we should remove some unanimity rules, notably in foreign affairs. He's making also some proposal. He was saying, oh yeah, we need to keep the rule that there should be one commissioner per member state, which ironically should not be the case. In theory, if you look at the treaties, there should not be one commissioner per member state. So there should not be 27 commissioners. On paper, there should be only the equivalent of 2/3 of the number of member states. So there should be only 18 commissioners on paper. That is the rule. In the treaties, it says, in principle, the commission should not have more than 2/3, the number of commissioners equivalent to 2/3 of the number of member states. So no more than 18. Except, and that's an exception that the council used immediately, unless the European Council, so the head of state and governments, agree to change that number. So what they did is, on paper, they're supposed to be 18 commissioner, but then member states say, oh, well, actually, no, we're going to maintain the 27. So it's a bit ironic to see Scholz saying, oh, yeah, we should not change the number of commissioners. Well, in theory, you should already change it, because the rule should be 18 and the exception 27. Denmark's CSDP referendum was run with the rather explicit political promise that we are not in favor of getting rid of veto on foreign policy in order to smooth the results. This was, of course, an OPSI promise. Yeah, that's again, it's a question of also of acceptability for citizens. Not all citizens agree on the same things when it comes to the EU, and that's something that has to be respected. Denmark, we know that Denmark is not historically not the most Euro enthusiastic country, and that's the deal. That's how Danish people see their belonging in the EU. You can have a debate then and whether Danish people want to change their mind, but if they don't, you have to respect it. That's a bit the point. What else? Because I'm rambling, and I don't want to keep the discussion for an infinite amount of time. I'm checking after Conference of Future of Europe. We have checked it. There was a discussion at some point. Who is writing the State of the Union? It's a service of the Commission who are writing. It's not Ursula von der Leyen who is in her office and writing everything. I mean, she has, of course, like a say on the final draft, but it's an entire process. Actually, there was a very interesting article by Politico by Ryan Heath, who used to work in the Commission and participated to the process of writing speech. SOTEU speech, Ryan Heath, and it's a very interesting thing because it explains how. Okay, I think that's this one. Yeah, that's this article. Reject all. Thank you. So that's the story of a journalist. We explain. Okay, I had to write. Help writing the speech on the State of the Union of Barroso, and this is a story of how it was an absolute nightmare to do. It takes a lot of time, etc., etc. So it's pretty funny as a story in this. I mean, I don't know if it's in this article where he says that basically at some point he's taking a bath in Barroso's hotel room. The thing is pretty interesting and explains, okay, how do you end up with writing a State of the Union speech for the president of the Commission. Is there any questions or points you want me to discuss? Because otherwise, I mean, I can ramble on whatever for an infinite amount of time. But that's yes, the thing I can show you as well. So that's the speech. And also, this is like a bit the how do I feel about Jose? I'm not the most Barroso fan. I think not a lot of people are huge Barroso fan in Brussels. I mean, there was a before and after Barroso. After Barroso, there is the more. Since Juncker, there is this more idea of the political European Union, the political Commission that tries to be more in sync with what citizens want, etc., etc. And yeah, Barroso is a bit, for right or for wrong, the symbol of the very like ultra liberal European Union that is all about opening the markets, etc., 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 regardless of what citizens want. So he is a bit the symbol of that. And after Barroso, there was a bit the idea to make the Commission more political, more in sync with citizens. But yeah, I'm not the most fond person of the Barroso year. So yeah, this is there is the speech, and then the Commission, also the president of the Commission, says, okay, concretely, this is what I want to do, and so you have all the legislation that the Commission wants to do to apply to execute the State of the Union. So you see that in European Green Deal, they will make a revision of the electricity market rules. So that's the whole debate about energy. They will create a hydrogen bank. That's another one proposal that is in the thing. This is something like something on reducing waste that wasn't discussed in the State of the Union. And interestingly enough, they added like this little mention that when you have an asterisk here, that means that this is a proposal that is meant to answer a recommendation of the Conference of the Future of Europe. So they say, oh, you see, this is something here. We're listening to what citizens were asking. Okay, and so you have in each like let's say big theme. So here you have the digital, let's say think even if, like, for instance, I don't see why the year of skills is in the Europe Fit for Digital Age. Same thing for the registration of asbestos. I don't know why it's in there, but why not? And so you have like each theme, and so it's the way of the Commission to say, okay, there is the speech, and then concretely, this is the legislation we will propose, the initiative that we will propose to implement it, so that it's not, it's a way to say, okay, it's not just empty words. This is concretely how we're going to make it a reality. So of course, that's just like the announcements, and there will be like the proper proposal, etc. Yes, and before I finish, and unless there is a point that you want me to discuss, finally important point, because I started my point a very long time ago and I never finished it. Why is it important this year? Because you have the impact of the war, and then there is the fact, the moment we are in the mandate, because next year, so 2023 is basically the last useful year for the Commission. What do I mean by that? The European elections are in 2024, meaning that the Commission will not be able to make big proposals from, let's say, the second part of 2023, because they will have no chance to be finished before the end of the mandate. The parliament will be entire, and member states will be focused on the elections, on the new commission, on the new parliament, etc. So it has no chance to be finished before the end of the mandate. So 2023 is the last moment for the Commission to make initiatives that have a chance to be finished before the European elections, and a chance for von der Leyen to then put the win to a mandate and say, you see, it's been 5 years with me and I was able to achieve this, this, and this. And if she starts something, if she launch a new regulation in January 2024, it's pretty much useless, because well, it's not going to be finished, and it's going to be the next commission that will have to finish the thing. So that's why it's also an important State of the Union, because that's the last moment where the Commission can make big, ambitious proposals that have a chance to be adopted and to be finished, and to change things on the ground. Because next year, when she's going to do a last State of the Union speech, she's going to basically be doing, okay, what have I done during the last mandate, and what would I recommend for the next mandate? There's not going to be a lot of announcement of new legislation, because there is no point in doing this. So that's why also it was a particularly important State of the Union for the Commission and for von der Leyen, because that's the last chance that she's got to go big on legislation, and for MEPs also to be interested and be active on these things. If you're about funding EU metaverse funding for VR project, you're greedy. I don't know much about the concrete proposals of the Commission on that. I know it's a topic now, because also Facebook has made a big thing about metaverse, etc., etc. So the EU is like, okay, let's keep an eye on that. But I have no clue about concretely what they want to do with it. But yeah. Anyway, that was it for this debrief of the State of the Union. I hope that you enjoyed it, both the interview part and me rambling around and talking about bits of everything. Let me know, give me feedback on this format, on whether you enjoyed the things that you would like to change, etc., etc. It's always good to have feedback on these kind of things. As usual, if you liked, you can follow me on social media. You have here all the links there: Twitter, Discord, YouTube, Facebook, all the good things. You just have to click and it's all there. If you really like what I do, you can of course follow the channel here. If you like it even more, you can subscribe. It's very much appreciated. Or you can toss a coin to your streamer on Coffee. Every little helps, I will say. Even if it's up to you to decide whether to give or not. And I hope that today, in any case, you will have understood a bit better what was SOTEU, the State of the Union was about, and the and the political debates around it. So yeah, have a good end of the week. I will see you next week. I'm not sure yet about the exact schedule. I still need to see a few things, so I will tell you about next week on Discord, on Twitter as usual. But I will see you hopefully. Well, for sure, I will see you next week for at least interviews. So have a good night, guys, and have a good end of the week. Bye.